start your adult life, a lot of things get very interesting. And I am talking about right when you graduate high school and you start working to either have funds for college or just to have money for rent. And for me, all of the jobs that I have had so far have been an experience for sure. To start off, one of my first jobs coming out of high school was at a small company in a small warehouse. And everything was chill so far. Everyone seemed to already be friends and hung out with each other even after work. And one of the things that I personally thought was hilarious was that most of my coworkers in the warehouse were guys with sleeves, tattoos on their neck, their face, so they looked all gangster and everything. So therefore, I thought they were really tough people until one day I saw a group of them huddle up and start laughing about memes and anime. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I did not think they were these kind of people. And now I will admit that there were a couple of guys in the warehouse that didn't really treat me like a normal coworker would. For instance, as I was on a ladder picking out some of the products for an order, one of my coworkers, we'll call him Jacob, decided to come down my aisle and proceeds to tell me,
"Excuse me!"
And at the time, I felt so embarrassed and so ashamed that I was probably in his way. So I quickly went down the ladder and moved out of the way. As I did that, I saw another coworker of mine, and he looked at me like, what happened? What's wrong? And in my head, I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know what's going on. And soon after that happened, I realized that he could have went down any of the other aisles to go to the same spot. However, for some reason, he thought that he needed to go through the aisle where I was working. And therefore, because of that incident that happened, I just thought in general that he didn't like me, so I tried to avoid him as much as I could. And one day, as I am packing, we usually use markers to write the order number on the box for later, but I didn't have a marker at the time, so I used my pen. Because I used the pen, my coworker Jacob noticed, and he nonchalantly started packing his order right next to me. When I literally looked across my table, I was like, okay, well, there's a lot of space on the other side where you can do that, but whatever. And as soon as he left to put the box where it's supposed to go, he left his marker right next to my box that I was packing everything inside. And I thought that was weird, and I didn't really want to use his marker because I wasn't sure what his motives were. He didn't tell me anything, so I just left the marker there. And then another one of my coworkers was kind of weird, I'm gonna be honest with you. And what I mean by that is most of the time he would start conversations with me, but ask me weird questions like, do you have kids? And I would answer him, I'd be like, no, I don't. But in my head, I'm like, why did he ask that? And then this one big incident happened to me that I did not think would happen to me at all. So anyways, there's one day during quarantine where we all had to wear our masks at work. And as I was pushing my cart, my coworker, he tried to be secretive about it, but it was very obvious with the way he was holding his phone that it looked like he was either taking pictures of me or he was recording me. And just to confirm my theory about this, I tried to make it look like it wasn't very obvious. So I pushed my cart to the packing area, kind of following him. And as we were turning a corner, I see his phone screen and it is on the camera. But luckily, soon after that incident happened, our company wasn't doing so well in California and we were moving to Texas in general, so we all got laid off. And my second job was when I became a caregiver for a retirement facility, which, as you would expect at any new job, it started out pretty normal. You know, I got trained to do everything until one day, soon after I got hired, during the week, most of my coworkers started telling on me with our supervisor, telling her that I wasn't doing my job. And because of that, our supervisor had some of my coworkers that were also caregivers come and supervise me while I do my job. And pretty much after they would supervise me and see that I am actually doing my job and what I'm supposed to do, they kind of look at me and they're like, well, I don't know what they're talking about. You're doing pretty good, so yeah, you're fine. But because this kept happening over and over again. I couldn't deal with it emotionally, so I basically quit that job. And my next job was at a mailing warehouse, and that also became very complicated very quickly. And one of the reasons why I say this is because one of my supervisors wasn't very nice to me and had that attitude of, I'm better at you at everything and anything. Literally, one time as lunchtime came around, I was in the lunchroom and pretty much all the tables were out and anyone can sit wherever they want. There is no assigned seats, and if there was, nothing was labeled and nothing was told to any of us. So one day I noticed that most of the seats were taken except one. So I proceeded to sit down to relax my feet because they were sore from standing all day. And my supervisor came up to me and basically told me,
"You can't sit there because my friends are sitting at this table."
So without making a big deal of it, I just apologized and stood up, found another seat, and sat at that one. And as soon as I sit in that other seat, she continues to stare at me like I was in the wrong. But luckily that job was temporary, so it didn't last very long. And then my next job was at another warehouse. And as I started working at this warehouse, it started to become summertime. And as some of you may know, in a warehouse environment, there is no AC and there is no heating. So therefore, sometimes, if you're lucky, they may have some fans where you're working. And the reason why I say if you're lucky is because at the warehouse that I was working at, I was a picker where I would pick the items for an order. And there were 4 levels. And the only level that had fans for cooling off was the first level. And the very top level got very hot to the point where it was unbearable. And at one point I told my supervisor, I was like, I don't know if I can handle this heat. It's too hot. I can't slow down because we have to keep working at a steady pace. If we slow down, then they would get us in trouble. And my supervisor basically told me that she couldn't really do anything about it and that was just their policy. So for my health and to protect myself, I quit that job. But I will say that one of the best places that I have worked at so far, according to the environment, was at this hair salon where I was basically the cleaning lady. And basically, as I was working there, I was working with just girls, and all of them were basically best friends with each other and would always be goofy and so nice and kind to our customers. It was just such a fun environment. And sometimes because of this, I would think to myself, oh my goodness, is this actually real? Like, do I actually deserve this because of what I've been through already so much with my past jobs? I don't understand. But of course, I was very grateful that all the girls were very nice and it was pretty fun working there for sure. And I basically just told myself, well, there's always a first time for everything. Do you wanna kiss? Sure.